Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of Show Me Your Diamond podcast and YouTube channel. I am Giulia Castelli, your host, and the newest diamond on my podcast is Toni Courtney Brown from Total Body Health Clinic in Wimbledon, London.
Hello, Giulia. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Let me share with you guys how I met Toni. We know each other for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. We met on a personal development course. We are both on this constant journey of bettering ourselves, learning more. At that occasion, we were taking our public speaking skills one level up or few levels up. And since then, we have seen each other, but I recently saw an episode, actually a TV interview with Toni, and I got to know him so much better, and I felt like I connected on a much deeper level, hearing his unusual, amazing, very touching story. Toni, for the people who do not know you, would you please share how your story started?
That's an interesting one, Giulia. I have an interesting background which is quite unusual. My parents came over here from Jamaica in the 50s, and I sort of arrived at the wrong time. And as a result, I was fostered for the first 6 years of my life with Dutch people who were really lovely. At the age of 6, I went back to my parents, who I didn't really know, and so that was a bit of a shock to the system. And we sort of jogged along. And then at 15, I was at school, and I think that my performance changed, and I was probably going through the usual teenage angst, asking why about everything. And rather than answering questions, I ended up being put on antidepressants at the age of 15.
Wow.
And then kept on them for the next 45 years.
Wow. Your story is really fascinating, and when I was listening to the interview, I related to you on so many levels. Antidepressants, depression, this is a subject I know very well as well. I have been in and out of them for so many years, but you starting them at 15. Now, from the experience and the wisdom that you have so many years later, what do you think? As you already mentioned, people should have been asking questions or answering questions instead of just masking symptoms. And this is actually, it's all over. All the Western medicine, not all of course, but the majority of it is just treating symptoms. But what was the underlying, and how would you have done things differently now? Of course, at 15, you couldn't decide for yourself.
A lot of illnesses that people have come from trauma. So when these things manifested themselves in me when I was a teenager, that could have been due to my background, to some trauma in the background, which could have been addressed through finding out exactly what happened, how I felt when I went back from my foster parents to my biological parents, and then also some of the issues I had growing up and some of the bullying at school, which a lot of people unfortunately have to go through. But the answer at that time was to put me on antidepressants. Now, there are a lot of really good medical people out there who do the best that they can with what they know at the time. However, things have changed somewhat now, and the real issue now is to talk to people, find out what the root cause of the issue is, and then deal with that and help people on the journey from where they are or where they were to somewhere else. And that's what we try and do here at the clinic, rather than mask the problem with a pill or a potion of some sort.
So what would be your advice to parents of teenagers who have gone to the GP, who have shared concerns about either anxiety or depression or attention deficit, would you say wait before you give the pills, explore other options?
Absolutely. Now, at the moment, there is a tsunami of mental health issues, especially experienced by young people post-COVID. Their education was disrupted, their socialization with other young people was disrupted, and at that particular point in time during adolescence, when we're changing so much, that's a really important time. So when children are going through this, especially now, those of them who present with ADHD, ADD, depression, anxiety, etc., what we need to do is listen, find out how they feel, and then put them on a program to reintegrate with their feelings and also get them socializing with each other again. I mean, some of you parents might notice this, but kids don't talk a lot now. They're like this on the phone, even when they're sitting next to each other. It's really strange because a lot of them have lost the power to socialize, and then they become introverted and they turn inwards. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that young people and their parents face today.
Yes, very interesting. I also have personal experience. I mean, first of all, I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, and I have also been quite an anxious teenager, and I believe I started experiencing symptoms of depression maybe at 13. But talking to my mother, actually, she's telling me that since she remembers me from when I was even 2, I was quite a sad child and quite closed down. People who know me nowadays would be curious, would be surprised to hear that, because I appear very outgoing, I am on social media, all over, omnipresent. I socialize a lot, but this was not my experience when I was a child. So, as you mentioned, we all carry some kind of childhood trauma, whether it's something the parents said, whether it's something the teacher said, or the children in kindergarten, in school. Sometimes it could be even a stranger. And of course, talking about more serious trauma, when it's child abuse or molestation or rape, then we're going even deeper. But there's a lot to be done and said, as you said, about finding the root cause. And I have learned this amazing therapy, rapid transformational therapy and hypnotherapy. This is how I take my clients to find the root cause. And in your clinic at the moment, Tony, what are the services you provide that could help people feel better? Right now, when we're recording this episode, is January. It's one of the hardest months for people to survive. January, February are usually quite hard because the holidays are gone. People have spent their money, and there's a lot of low mood and anxieties, and especially if people are watching the TV and reading the news, then it's even more depressive. How do you help people go through this? I mean, obviously your clinic is not seasonal, but what would be your top tips now for surviving those winter cold months that are deprived of sun? And then I would like you to also show, say, in general, not only for the winter months. Maybe their advice would be different.
Sure. This is not my favourite time of year, as you well know. It's interesting, when we shared our stories together, I would look at you and I would have no idea about your past, what you've been through, the traumas that you've experienced, because you're out there.
Yeah.
You look like an extrovert, you look like you're always on top of things.
Yeah.
And so many of us have been through serious situations where we have to put on the mask and appear like that in public, when underneath we're experiencing all kinds of things.
This is a beautiful subject. Wow, I also feel like, for me, I don't know if you could relate, but I feel like there are two people in me. The little girl who is quite shy and could be quite melancholic and sad and lack confidence, and then that other persona that I invented and I made up, and she's brave and she's outgoing, she's funny, and she's bold the way she dresses, and she appears to have it all together. And the biggest thing, and I believe this happens a lot, so the biggest thing now, me coming towards 50s, I just find that the gap between the two women that are Julia is quite big. And what I'm going through is putting the gap smaller and bringing those two people closer together. That's why I'm spending more time in solitude, in peace, in quiet, not even music, not even, I never have the TV on, that's a given, meaning just as a background noise. I remove the noise and I spend time alone. And I spend time trying to be present and actually seeking the validation from inside, because a lot of my other persona, the Giulia Castelli that a lot of people know, the one that is dripping in diamonds and walking the red carpets, and I love that girl, that she has a place. But I think that other Giulia, the more down-to-earth one, the one with the big heart, the one that wants to help people, and the one that is vulnerable and admits to it, is who I truly am. And I believe a lot of people are living quite being unhappy, wearing the mask outside and being someone else inside. Have you felt like this? Do you still feel it? And what's your way of dealing with Tony that people know and Tony that you are?
My trauma, I believe, started when I was 5, because I've been brought up in this lovely, loving foster family, Dutch people, white Dutch people, and we didn't really talk about race. But then one day I was playing out in the street and these people started throwing stones at me and calling me names and racially abusing me. Now, I didn't know what was going on until then. I looked at myself and I looked at other people around me and thought, yeah, I'm a different colour.
Wow, I get goosebumps.
So I went home, got in the bath and got some scouring powder and a brush and tried to scrub the colour off.
Oh my God.
Now, my foster mother, lovely lady that she was, came in, washed all this stuff off me, wrapped me up in a towel and explained that that was the way I was born, there wasn't anything I could do about it, and these other people were just stupid and ignorant. And I think that's probably where the trauma started. And then going back to my biological parents, and then finding out a completely different culture and different expectations added on that. And then what happens is things get layered. So then going through school and you get some racial abuse and you get some fights and you get a bit of bullying and all this adds up. There's a great book by Bruce Lipton called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
And it does, because if these traumas are not released and they build up, at some point they're going to spill over.
Yes. And thankfully nowadays, there are people who write about that, and many people are reading about that. Unfortunately, not enough people, because even my own brother would just, if something is wrong, he would go, let's say low back pain, he would go for operation. He already had 2, high blood pressure, something else. He would just take so many pills. And me and you, Tony, know that those things did not, the symptoms is the low pain, but there's something underlying that. The same with blood pressure and many other diseases that could be helped without operations, without pills. And this is something we share. We share the belief that holistically we can help spread the word and give the tools to people to heal without using pills and operations. So, yes, how did you tell me more about your story? What happened next? Because at certain point, as you said, so there's another great book that When the Body Says No.
Yes.
Right? Because at certain point the body says no and you get a disease or you get a pain, and then we need to decode the negative, what is happening, the pain. We need to look at it and thank it because it's actually giving us an indication that something's wrong. But what do most people do? They go to the doctor, they get the painkillers, they get the prescription, the symptoms are removed, but the underlying disease is there. So tell me your story and
Sure. When I was put on these antidepressants at 15, then that just became a way of life. When I left school, I had all these thoughts. Why am I on these pills, these medications? Why are my other friends on these things? What is it? What's wrong with me? And so I left school and went and did a degree in psychology, and I thought that would help. Didn't.
wow.
Gave me a lot of the theory about why people behave in certain ways, but then a lot of that was what I look back and I think was rubbish. Well, I don't need to know how rats behave. We're not that similar to rats, so why are all the experiments carried out like that? I was more interested in the humans and why humans behave the way in which they do. I went through life's usual ups and downs. I left college, I was homeless, I was jobless, had some difficult times going through that. And then I managed to get a job as a housing officer, and I rapidly ascended the scale and became a housing director in my early 30s, quite young. By that time, I'd got married, had a child, and on the outside, things were looking rosy. Big house, big car, with the trappings supposedly of material success. But I'm still on the drugs. I'm still on antidepressants. Over the 45 years I was on them, I've looked at my medical records. I've been tried on at least 21 different types of antidepressant.
21. Oh my God. So you were actually the human experiment.
I was the lab rat.
Yeah.
And if you open a packet of antidepressants, you'll see it has inside a label which says contraindications, i.e. side effects. Well, one of the side effects of many antidepressants, it says, may make you feel depressed.
Oh my God.
Another side effect is may make you feel suicidal. Well, in what sane world would you give somebody a pill that has a side effect? They've got depression, has a side effect, may make you feel depressed, may make you suicidal. But that's the world that we live in.
And may make you also gain a significant amount of weight and many other things. Well, it's not funny, but we both have personally experienced that. And, to me, one of the shocking things, of course, psychiatrists have a place to be, but studying so many years, then to be charging £500-600 an hour just to prescribe you antidepressants? Oh my God, honestly, for £500, I take people without any medication, and in one session they could have a breakthrough and find out the limiting beliefs, the root cause of why they are depressed or anxious, or they have certain amount of pain, physical or mental. But £500-600 for prescribing you antidepressants? I have had that, and it's still one of the most shocking experiences I have had. And we both also share. We have both been to the Priory,
Yes.
which is, to me, I don't know how your experience has been. For me, that was a beautiful place because I have also suffered some emotional abuse, and that's very scary because on the outside you don't see it. It's not physical, there's no sign, but someone is constantly putting you down, and that's horrible. So I had a outpatient 6 weeks program that really transformed me. And the most amazing thing, we had time management, we had anger management, we had tai chi, we had sports, we had art therapy, we had sport groups. But my most valuable lessons were one sheet of paper on assertiveness. We had a class on assertiveness, and there were maybe 10 rules, and the rule I'll never forget now that made such huge impact in my life was, you have the right to change your mind. And that's amazing because I was constantly told, no, but you already said that, you shouldn't do that, and shouldn't, and it's like how one person can have a grasp on another person, telling them what to do, what to think, what to feel. It's right now it's mind-blowing because I'll never ever let anyone do that to me, but it's so horrible that you don't feel it, and then you get to think that this is normal, and many people unfortunately live in those kind of relationships.
Too many do, and stay in them for an awful long time. Now we get quite a few people in here with mental problems because the mind-body connections, is so strong. And the trauma creates all kinds of illnesses. For instance, we had one lady in here who had cancer. And she was very astute, and she just said, I know why I've got this. I should have left that bastard 5 years ago.
Wow.
So as you're saying, staying in dysfunctional, bullying relationships for a long time has that impact. And I've been through some relationships similar to that, and I'll just get to the nub of why I do what I do now. Going through one of those kinds of relationships and coming out the other end, I found myself on Christmas Eve 2011, broke, no food in the fridge. The person with whom I was having a relationship just walked up saying that they hadn't really signed up for this, and I was about to have my house repossessed, and this is the third time in my life I had lost everything.
Wow.
Now, when I was in the Priory, like yourself, I went on a day basis to have electroconvulsive therapy. Now, that's the Priory, and this is going back to the 90s.
Wow.
Now, 90s and early 2000s. Now, on that Christmas Eve, facing losing everything again, becoming homeless, jobless, possibly out on the street, and then end of a relationship, my cup had runneth over. I was filled up to here, couldn't take any more. Didn't have any money. What I did have was a stash of antidepressants and a couple of cheap bottles of wine. And I decided to check out of this realm. Took all the pills, took the wine, with the aim of finishing it. And what I do now is I don't want anyone, as far as I can impact them, to get to that stage where they see no way out.
Wow, this is very scary. So, to someone out there who is feeling that their cup is too full, that they can't take anymore, what would be your advice? Because you've been there, you felt that, you actually were on the border. What happened? I mean, first, what happened? How did you come out of it? And what would be the message to those people who feel there's no way out?
Right. Thing is, I planned this quite meticulously. I sat in the bath with the pills and the wine, and I thought, if the pills and the wine don't do it, then I should at least lose consciousness and my head should go underwater. That would be it.
Wow, so you triple protected yourself.
Belt and
Protected.
braces. Belt and braces job. Now, obviously I didn't pass at that time, but I came round the next day in a locked ward of a hospital sectioned under the Mental Health Act. I had no clothes, no money, no idea why I was there or how I'd got there. I was supposed to be in a different realm. And then to wake up there with a hospital gown, exposing my rear and so on, I was even more depressed. To this day, I don't know how I got there. I don't know if the person who was leaving me came back, called an ambulance. I don't know if the neighbours found me. I don't know what happened.
Wow, so you're living a second life now?
Yes.
So what is your advice to the people who feel it's not worth it?
If you are ever in that space, please call someone. Call the Samaritans. Call a neighbour. If you have friends that you can call one of them. Let somebody know that you're on the edge, that you're on the brink, and you need some help. Please contact somebody. And keep going, contacting people until you get someone who responds in a positive way, someone who cares and will take some action.
So how did you get out of that depression? And I remember you have had a shocking number of shock therapy. I mean, is that even legal? And what is it? I mean, how do other people inflict shock on people trying to heal them?
Well, again, this comes back to what I was saying earlier. I believe that there are a lot of good medical people who do what they believe is the best thing at the time with the knowledge that they have. However, I have to be blunt about this. Whilst some people say that electroconvulsive therapy helped them, it didn't help me. I feel it's a barbaric way to do things. Similar to the lobotomies which they used to perform on people, take a bit of brain out to think that that's going to help. I categorise this the same way. Now, when I was in the hospital, I was doped up to the eyeballs every day. And then after a period of time, they said, your depression is so intransigent that we need to do something else. So then it was back to electroconvulsive therapy. And they gave me, whilst in there, 17 sessions of that. For those of you not familiar with it, you may have seen a film called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, where he is an inmate in a mental hospital and he tried to lead a rebellion. And so to shut him up, they gave him electroconvulsive therapy. This involves being strapped down on a bed, your arms and legs strapped down. You have an implement put around your tongue so you don't swallow it. Then they attach electrodes to either side of your head, and then they shock. Boom! Boom! And this is supposed to help your depression.
Oh my God.
As I said, I don't see physically how that is supposed to help, and I think that's barbaric, and there are much better ways to help people in that situation than doing that. The result of which as well, by the way, is that I have gaps in my memory from around that time which I don't think I will ever get back.
Oh, wow. Oh, I hope you're writing a book, or you will be writing a book, because people need to know. I mean, first, your story, because there's so many, I don't know, barbaric things done to you. But also, it's a story about courage. It's a story about huge transformation. Look at you. You're now an entrepreneur. You're an owner of a beautiful health clinic. You help people. You're a public speaker. I mean, you do so many beautiful things. So this is very inspirational, and this is why I wanted to invite you for you to share your beautiful story, because only through hardship we get our inner diamond polished. We get all these facets and all these experiences, no matter how painful, have made you into the beautiful person you are today, Tony. Tell me, how do you help people nowadays through the clinic? What are the services you provide? How do you help people? Because you don't want any more those barbaric things that were done to you with antidepressants, with pills, with shock therapy. How do you heal people?
Right, and again, I'll just have to share briefly some of the other things that happened. So when I got out of there, I experienced other problems, back problems. I had sciatica, a slip disc, and arthritis. So it hurt to sit down, to stand up, to sleep. Everything was painful.
Wow.
And so, on top of the antidepressants, I was given tramadol, gabapentin, injections in the back. And again, all the pills interacted. Then I had a further problem, which was an enlarged prostate, which a lot of men are getting nowadays. And so I was given more pills on top of that and sent for a biopsy. Now, around that time, I'm now taking 24 pills a day. And some of you may have seen these pill boxes for sale in the chemists, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, morning, noon, night, taking these pills. And at one point I said to the doctor, what happens when you mix antidepressants, very strong painkillers, and prostate pills together? He said, we don't know. So I said, have you got any idea what these are doing to me, how they make me feel? No. Now, luckily around that time, I had a coach who said, you need to come off all this stuff. And I said, no, I've been told I have to take this for the rest of my life. He said, well, that's not going to be very long if you keep taking this. And he sent me to see a friend of his who's a kinesiologist. And for those of you who don't know what a kinesiologist does, they do something called muscle testing. So they see whether your body likes something or not. And so I took all my pills along, and he did this muscle testing thing with me, and he said, your body doesn't want any of this. Stop taking them. And then I went through some rather gruesome times. I stopped taking them, just like that. Don't ever do this at home, any of you, please don't. And he gave me some vitamins and minerals to help, but then I spent 2 months shaking and sweating, because that's 45 years of all these drugs coming out. And I rang him back up and said, I can't hack this, I need to go back on them, I can't cope with this. And he sent me to go and get some colonic irrigation. And the lady who performed that said, have you ever tried bioresonance? I said, I don't know, what's that? She gave me a card, sent me to go and see a practitioner. As a result of that, I was able to, firstly, when I went for the biopsies, the consultant said after the second, well, I don't know what's happened here, but here's the good news, you haven't got cancer and I'm discharging you. I was also able to throw away the pills, no pain, able to go back to the gym, lose 2 stone, and change my life from there on. So with regard to what you're saying, that's why we have, for instance here, 2 bioresonance devices, because I know that that's what helped change me. We have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which a lot of sports people have. Ronaldo uses one to keep his fitness up. Michael Jackson used one because of all his frenetic dancing, he used to injure himself a lot. And so he'd get in that because it would help heal his injuries quicker, get him back on the dance floor faster. The Kardashians use them for more cosmetic reasons. So hyperbaric oxygen has got lots of benefits, many of which some people are beginning to know about, but goodness me, it can save people a lot of pain.
Last time I was having a meeting with you here in your clinic, I saw a lady who has cancer. She was going into the hyperbaric chamber. Is that something that really makes cancer patients feel better?
What is fact is that cancer doesn't like oxygen. And normally when we're breathing now, we're breathing in about 23%. When you're in the chamber, it goes up to between 95 and 100%. And that reduces a lot of the inflammation in the body, helps with circulation. And a lot of people with cancer use that alongside whatever treatments they're getting from the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Yes, there's so much we could do with helping people have a better chance of fighting a horrible disease as cancer or some of the autoimmune diseases. I mean, first, through hypnotherapy, NLP, rapid transformational therapy, but also changing your water, having more oxygen, bioresonance machine. And on so many topics we resonated because like you, I totally believe in bioresonance. I use bioresonance myself. Hyperbaric chamber, I have tried and I can't wait to try yours, and I would love to have separate episodes on just giving more information about the hyperbaric chamber, about the infrared sauna you have, and the bioresonance machines and services. But right now I just had some permanent makeup done, and I'll be using the hyperbaric chamber to help with healing. So and also it helps greatly with for insomnia, and when you haven't slept well, jet lag. I mean, that's a universal thing. I wish I could afford to have it at home, but until then I have Tony and his clinic to come to. And yes, I just remembered that I asked you for some tips for our audience on how to cope during those hard winter months.
Well,
and both of us having the attention deficit.
This is not my favourite time of year, both for the memories it brings back and also because of the weather. I'm somebody who loves the sun.
Me too.
And this time of year, we don't get a lot of it. And
not in England anyway, but a lot of countries in Europe as well. That's
right. And so some of you, like me, might suffer from something called seasonal affective disorder.
Me.
Which is also known as SAD, which is
a proper word for it.
How it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Now, we're lucky here with the red light therapy, which replicates the impact of the sun and helps to lift the mood as well as deals with aches and pains. But if you haven't got one of those, then irrespective of, even on a grey day like today, get out in the fresh air, get some natural light on your body. Because even when it's grey like this, you can still benefit from the sun, believe it or not. And that's what we need to do. The other thing is to do things contrary to what you might want to do. So this time of year, we're a bit like animals. We want to hibernate, we want to curl up in a a blanket or something and not come out very much at all. Whereas cold therapy is really good for you. So if you get in the shower, turn on the hot and then whack on the cold. Now, you might think, that's not going to be very nice. Well, also when you do that and you've got the cold on, and instead of going ooh, like this, just breathe deeply. It will prove to you that you have more control over your body and over things than you think you do generally. And secondly, it has a positive impact on the cells in your body. Then put the hot back on, then put the cold back on. Alternating hot and cold stresses the body to an extent where it builds up your immunity. So those are two things to do. Get out in the fresh air, in nature if you can. If you can get into a park where you've got greenery, do that. And again, if you can bear it, take your shoes and socks off and walk on the grass. It's called grounding. That way you connect with the Earth's magnetic frequency. Now, it might all sound a bit weird and woo-woo, but it's science. And people far cleverer than me, such as Einstein, know that frequency is the future of medicine.
Yeah, and hence bioresonance as well, and
Yes.
breathing, and two more hacks from me. Of course, nutrition. Look for something that really is nurturing to your body and nurtures the cells. But even before talking about nutrition, think about the water you drink. Don't drink dead water. Most, tap water in London is not very good for you at all. It's dead water, it's big water, big molecules. The bottled water, the same thing. The filters does not do much. But find water that is alkaline. And here, this is what I drink. This is what I brought for Tony. Instead of champagne, this is how I go to see my friends. So this water is hydrogen rich, alkaline, antioxidant, microclustered. It's living water. So yes, we are about 75-80% water, so it's mega important what we drink to hydrate. So change your water, look into your nutrition. Do you help people with nutrition and advice on nutrition or exercises? Because obviously those are all the ways to avoid the pills and invasive therapies.
Absolutely. We look at various pillars that keep people healthy. So we look at your sleep, the hydration, which Julia's mentioned, which is so important, exercise, diet, and your stress level. Now, with regard to diet, there is so much food out there which is ultra processed and doesn't do us any good. So where you can, eat organic food. The other thing is that when we're born, the cells in our bodies are soft, cell walls are soft, and so we can absorb lots of nutrients more easily. As we get older, these cell walls harden, so we don't absorb that much. The other thing is that the nutritional value of food has gone down over years because people haven't been using regenerative farming, and that farming has been done basically to make money rather than to ensure that they grow the best quality crops.
There's pesticides, there's a lot of chemicals in fruits and vegetables, as well as you said, the food became so processed. So a simple tip is, if you look on the packet and you don't recognize what this is, it's not real food.
Absolutely.
It's just even as simple as that. And stress. How do you help your people to lower their stress level?
The first thing is to let people talk. When people go to the GP now, the GP's got 5 minutes. They might not be listening to what you're saying. They're looking at the screen and they're writing a prescription before you've even finished saying anything. And it's next.
Yeah.
What we do here is invite people to talk, to open up, whatever is on your chest, get it out. It doesn't matter, we're unshockable, right?
After all this shock therapy, you're unshockable. I like that.
That's right. So whatever it is, let it out. And also, just going back to the cells in our bodies, because they get harder as we get older, we need to look at supplements to add to the food that we're taking in, because it doesn't have the correct amount of nutrients. The type of supplement, we have to be very precise and careful about that.
You actually tested me for something, and it sounded very interesting. You took some blood from me, and I'm waiting for the results. And then, so could you tell us more about that? It's quite fascinating.
Sure. It's a simple blood test that will determine the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 in our bodies. Now, when we're babies or when we're small, it can be anything from 1 to 1 to 1 to 3. That's because our cell walls are soft. As we get older, as I said, they harden. And so some people, when they have the blood test that you've had, some people think that they're quite healthy, but it might come back 1 to 30.
Wow.
Or more. And that shows how few nutrients they're taking in. So whilst they might think, well, I eat healthy, I drink lots of water and so on, it's not getting through. So what this test will do is show whether it is or not. Once they know, because it's there for them to see in black and white, then they can think, okay, what can I do? So then we have a supplement that we can give them, which softens the cell walls. Then after 120 days, taking that supplement, test again and see the difference and feel the difference. So we look at all these things in the whole, and then again, just come back to the mind-body connection, and it's listening to people.
Yeah, it's fundamental. For us, one of the basic needs we have is to be seen and to be heard. And yes, we're so much all over the place, all over the social media channels, but there's so much noise that sometimes people just stroll after 2 or 3 seconds. How could you even deliver a message? And how can you be properly heard? So for me, although I really recognize the importance of being visible and delivering the right messages, I believe for my own sanity, I also do take time to be alone. I do take time to be private, and certain aspects of my life to stay private. So we need to know what we are doing out there on the social, not just be part of that big noise. And part of it for me is also refining my messaging and just helping people, spreading the message, because me and you, through hard experiences, know that actually it is quite simple. If people were to listen to us, if people were to share how they really feel instead of pretending, because on Instagram and most social medias, it appears everyone's happy, wealthy, and has got it all. But in reality, this is not real life. So if we could take time to see people, but really see them, hear them, not only listen, but hear the people, and stop all this rushing and trying to do too many things. I believe in simplicity is the answer. So together, between what I know and what you know and our experiences, exciting things are coming. We're discussing collaborations, but generally, yes, sharing our stories. Through our stories, people could relate to us, and we could share what we know and just show the way, because it took us so many years. And for you out there, if you want to have the shortcut, then do get in touch with us, and we'll be very happy to speed up your healing, your recovery process, your going to that next healthier level, happier level. Tony, and the crown question of the podcast, show me your diamond.
That's an interesting one. I'm not sure if this answers your question, but it's this. We are all tested in life, one way or another. Everybody has a story to tell. Without a test, there is no testimony. And with regard to myself, my message is in my mess. And the aim for all of us is to take on the challenges thrown at us and come through the other side. However, 1, do not be afraid to ask for help. 2, never give up. And 3, whilst medicine has its place, start with what Mother Nature gave us first.
Beautiful answer. So how could people find you, Tony? Is it totalbodyhealth.com?
Website is www.total-body-health.com. You'll also find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and what's the one that used to be?
It used to be Twitter, now X, or LinkedIn, TikTok. Oh, there's so many.
Goodness knows.
Yeah.
Find us on those 3 certainly.
Or just
LinkedIn,
ask Julia,
Instagram.
because I know, Tony, I can bring you here. It's beautiful. I love the energy. I feel the care. And that's why I would like to do some exciting projects with Tony, because we're on the same page, spreading the message of good health. And the body, the mind connection, the connection to Earth, to Mother Earth, and having positive mindset. So having all of this, I believe this is also your recipe of your incredible transformation, Tony. You are inspirational. You're just a kind, lovely person to know, and I'm very happy to share you with my tribe.
Thank you, Julia.
Stay tuned, more is coming. I would love, as I mentioned, to have other episodes just explaining more in detail the different services and health benefits of the services we mentioned. So stay tuned, follow us, subscribe, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.